Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And this is, of course, a quote of Professor Yang Wei Chi, of course, the soul and brain of the Bwin Foundation. I'd like to deeply thank for being with us today. No need of introduction for him. And we have today in this True Care episode, that is the acronym of Together Reporting, Unbiased Education, Certification, and Regulatory Education, two huge representatives of the industry world from SIGVARIS. It's our deep honor and pleasure to have with us today Dr. SIGVARIS and Dr. Sylvain Garland, that is in representation of indeed the SIGVARIS highest level, because we truly think that from the industry world, we have huge expertise that we should enjoy more, particularly in the certification and regulatory education. So welcome everybody, and this will be a very informal 15 minutes reproducing the informal moments we were sharing during the coffee breaks during the meeting. Looking forward for the next time in person. So we start big with Dr. Sako, who is like an engineer. And that's a great thing, because we really want to go into the details of compression and on the importance of the certification aspects. So we are running this educational initiative because we know that 40% of the medical websites, according to the literature, might contain misinformation, shared hundreds of thousands of times. So I would like to have the industry perspective on how you see this issue of misinformation, particularly on the graduated compression stockings. We all fly, for example, a lot, and I'm always impressed in the airport to see in these shops compression stockings that are clearly not certified, and all these people buying them with the idea that this will help them a lot. So what is SIGVARIS and your personal perspective on this issue nowadays?
Yeah, thank you, Sergio, for having me here, and also for this question and for your initiative. Our vision at SIGVARIS is to help patients and to support healthcare providers. And this includes professional and scientifically based communication towards patient and medical communities. What we are doing is we are performing regular trainings in our teams to ensure that our employees are up to date regarding the latest scientific evidences and knowledge. And when it comes to quality control, we will definitely tackle this a little bit later. But for us, it's really important to have the highest quality for our products.
That is very interesting. And do you notice in the commercials around many products that you're saying they really didn't do it right, there is really not certification behind this, or is not an issue?
Yeah, unfortunately, we see that lots. I mean, we are outside at the customer side every day, so we see a lot of things. And we also observe that sometimes information is really not that clear, or that sometimes information is presented in such a way that it is more in a company's benefit than it is in a benefit of the patient. And as an engineer, for me, it is really very important to stick to the facts and to the figures. And particularly the quick and more marketing-oriented information in the internet can lead to misunderstandings or confusion in the patient community. And as we are really a patient-centric company, and we want to ensure that our end users are well informed, our aim is that patients and the medical community gets access to the right advice, to correct and clear measurements, wearing and care instructions. We have a scientific department in our company, and they give regular information and also perform regular trainings to our customer and also to our employees.
That is very interesting. I've always wondered if you were keeping track of this misinformation, because if I was working with the industries, I would have really put a task force to keep track of what is there, because it's pretty unbelievable. We have started now digging into what is out there in the web, and you can see, for example, creams that are claiming literally to have a vein disappearance in 2 months without any treatment. So do you have, or do you think it would be useful to have groups tackling this issue from the industry to help us also understanding that maybe some products are not certified while we think they are certified? Or do you have this already? Or
yeah, frankly speaking, I really would appreciate such an initiative. We react really on a case-to-case basis, but not in such a structured way. So actually, we would acknowledge and appreciate such a more structured initiative, definitely.
Because I think that morally, that's what scientific societies and experts and industry should do together to have a look, because many times, again, we are not even able to understand if a product is certified or not. And for this, I would pass the mic to Willy, asking another huge figure from SIGVARIS, Sylvain, also a dear friend and a good motorbike rider mate, that indeed is a biologist. So we can move from the technical aspects of an engineer to the clinical application with that biological expertise. So Willy, would you like to take over from here in the discussion?
Yeah, it's great to see the representative from SIGVARIS. Sylvain, good to see you again online, virtually. But I have a question for you about the certification process and what we must have and why is it important to both the medical community as well as the patient advocates.
Okay, thank you very much for this interesting question, really, and thank you for having me here also. As you might know, there are three main standards that exist currently. It's the RAL GZG standard that is mainly applied in the German-speaking areas, the AFNOR norm that is in the French and the French-speaking areas, and the British standard. And all these standards clearly provide orientation for the compression garment producing industry. And this goes from raw material up to the final product. And these prerequisites are needed for the market approval and also for the reimbursement. As example, if you have a new compression garment that is developed according to the RAL standards, it must undergo an in-depth prototype testing by the Hohenstein Institute prior to market approval. And this goes really from the yarn testing up to the pressure testing to ensure that everything is in the range of the norms that are provided. And once the compression garment is available on the market, we additionally have yearly tests that have to be done to document the quality maintenance. Further to these external requirements, we apply an in-depth internal quality control to ensure only perfect, safe, and efficacious compression garments are delivered to our customers. So SIGVARIS Group is really dedicated to produce according to the highest quality and production standards. And therefore, the quality control considers all production steps from the incoming raw material up to the finally ready to deliver product. Besides the standardized quality testing for durability, raw material consistency, etc., it must also be mentioned that the production of a compression garment is not purely machine done. So there are several cutting and sewing operations that are needed to finish a medical compression garment. And during all these checks, during all these finishing steps, the operators are performing additional quality checks. And last but not least, 100% of the produced SIGVARIS Group compression stockings are undergoing an optical control, where they are tested visually for errors of product failures. And all these measures are necessary to ensure that the three main objectives of compression garments are reached and maintain the optimal therapeutic efficacy, product reliability, and best comfort.
That is absolutely interesting and true. I visited also the factories where you're producing this, and starting from the very beginning of the creation of the stocking indeed is important also for the endurance, I say, because you mentioned something indeed about the testing of how much they can last. And we can see a lot of time patients who are asking us, for example, if they can use the correlated compression stockings that maybe the father or mother used 20 years before for the same procedure and they kept it into the closet. That's why it's important to understand also the technical feature of that, and also how we measure the dose of compression. And we are used to say it's like a drug, literally, that has anti-inflammatory effects. And like a drug, you want to know exactly the dose and the type of drug you are using. For example, not all around the world, but in Italy, it's an issue that we really perceive, the unit of measures of dinars. I don't know you have this in US with the dinars. Do you use the dinars as a unit of measure? Because in Italy, a lot of ladies in particular are used to go by themselves as a cultural thing to buy some dinars of pressure, which is not a pressure because it's just the unit of measure of how much the stocking is weighing, basically. What we want to have is millimeter mercury, and that's where we have to bring education on the topic, I would say. So let's look at what we are doing wrong now, guys. So I would like to ask the industry representative, we as experts, as scientific societies, what do you think we are not doing that we should do more to protect patients and also industry who invested so much in all the technical aspects you said? Tell us what we do wrong. and don't be friends. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a joint responsibility between the healthcare providers and the industry. And I think from an industry side, what our goal is really that we follow all required regulatory guidelines. I mean, it's a medical product, so there are clear guidelines in the development, but also in the quality control. So we have a very stringent internal quality control process to ensure a constant and also a reproducible production of our product, of our compression garments. What we also do, if we see some products which are on the market that do not comply with the regulation, we inform the authorities. So as I said, it's really on a case-to-case basis that we do that. We also think that it should be in the healthcare provider's responsibility to ensure that only validated and trusted medical compression stockings are prescribed, and to also to advise the patient in a way that they understand the difference between the validated, quality-tested compression garment and the fake garments that they might purchase at a lower price in a general store or even online.
Sylvain, what do you think about this?
I can absolutely support that, and we have often the feedback that you can just wear a compression stocking with 3 different sizes, as example, but this does not really deliver the efficacy that is needed for each morphology of the leg. So it has to be clear that if we produce our medical compression stockings, we offer a wide variety of sizes, and if this can be ensured also that the patient is getting the right fitted stocking afterwards that delivers the right compression for his needs and for the therapeutic effect that we want to achieve with these products.
That is very interesting, and it's unfortunate that virtually we have to go back to the meeting room because this would be the coffee break, so we have to stay in the 15 minutes, but I'd like to take just extra 2 minutes because you said something that is interesting to me. You pointed out exactly how it is a medical product, but at the same time there is the paradox that we don't walk on 4 legs. We just are bipeds and overwhelmed by the force of gravity, for which we have varicose veins on our lower limbs and not on our upper on our arms, which means that compression stockings, more and more we are pointing out also by the literature, is not just even medical anymore, it's lifestyle. And indeed, you focused a lot also in delivering very nice products that are usable every day. And that's not just for fashion, but also for the thing that we, for example, as surgeons, whoever is standing up for a prolonged time might have a benefit from that. Whoever is practicing sport might have a benefit on that. And on this, I would like to stress out the might, because we are used to say that sport is again like a drug that acts on so many different organs. But like a drug, it really depends on how you use it. It can be beneficial or harmful. And if you really think about the word agonism in sport, inside you have the word agony. Because if you practice sport in the wrong way, you can also injure yourself. So compression stockings, in my opinion, are becoming far more than medical in our scientific evidence-based data. And it's really important also for the nations to understand this from a cost perspective. We are running now an investigation to see if compression stockings, for example, can be like the shoes with the metal tip to protect from the evolution of the disease and the cost associated with this condition. But of course, it has to be a proper stocking. So I think we have to do proper work. I think it is good, for example, now we put on the website of the WIN Foundation 2 forms, one for the experts and one for the public, where they can report eventually encountered misinformation. So if I should answer myself about the question I was doing before, I think one thing we have been doing wrong so far has been just closing ourselves in our own scientific group, industry group, not really communicating with the public, while we should really try to get together in a time like particularly the pandemic one, in which we particularly understand the issue of misinformation of thrombosis, because we have learned so much also during COVID time about that, and also of self-management. I think another true care episode should be done on the adjustable compression reps and the possibility of self-management. But for the conclusion, I will pass the mic to the scientific director of the WIN, which is Willie.
Thank you, Sergio. I think over the last 15 minutes, I certainly have learned a lot from both Sylvain and Dr. Ha, and certainly thank the SIGVARIS group for this opportunity. So from my standpoint, I think that the key issue that I have sort of heard in the last 15 minutes is communication. And that's communication between the industry, the scientific part, which is usually the medical providers, and also the patient. But I think it's more important that we speak to his or her own language, meaning that for patients, we cannot use too sophisticated scientific term, which Sergio certainly had pointed out, but on the same level that we need to give them the whole spectrum of compression as a science, you know, based on both what Dr. Hart said and what Sylvain has said about the need for the raw material to the final product, and there's QA process every step of the way to ensure that at the end that patient could see this throughput of all the science and effort putting into a pair of medical grade compression. So I think that again, communication is the key from what I have heard in the last 15 minutes, and we have to focus on that both as the medical community and also as the industry.
And indeed, really, we are really focused on that because, as you know, this is part of the Winter Dubai initiative that will lead to the creation of a consensus document that the experts will find in International Angiology Journal as a full issue, but the public will enjoy also as a multilingual booklet in layman terms as an extract of these more expanded, of course, documents. So we look forward for having true care, literally, in Dubai together next February. And meanwhile, I deeply thank the SIGVARIS friends who joined us today. Do you like to have a last word before we go back to the meeting as the coffee is over?
Oh, also from my side, Sergio, thank you very much. It was a very interesting discussion, and I fully agree with the conclusion that communication is really the key. So that's my takeaway also from this discussion, that we from the industry side also can do more and better, also to improve our communication towards our patients. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Sylvain?
Also from my side, thank you very much. A great experience. I think the keyword communication is really great because it needs to, we need to be able to give back the confidence to the patient to wear the compression stocking. We always say only the compression stocking that is worn by the patient is the effective compression stocking and the good compression stocking. So in this, I think this is a great initiative, and I'm really looking forward for the outcome also.
And indeed, we will have both experts and also public representatives in Dubai. So let's hope that next time we'll be together in Dubai for a real coffee and maybe also a glass of wine. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.